So they are being analyzed by acoustic experts to determine what they could be and where they're coming from.
The noises have been described as banging noises, but again, they have to put the whole picture together in context, and they have to eliminate potential man-made sources other than the Titan. I can tell you from my experience with acoustics that there are sounds by biologics that sound man-made to the untrained ear, but I can assure you that the people listening to these tapes are trained. There are a lot of vessels in the area, and they each make noise.
All right, let's bring in David Gallo with RMS Titanic Inc. He joins us tonight from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Thanks for joining us. Let's start with the noises. David, could it be from the submersible? Is that likely?
Well, it's as you heard Carl say there that they have to eliminate a lot of things, but the idea that they're regular noises every 30 minutes or so, and then from the same kind of location, they were heard by several different planes and a couple of different days. So it looks like there's something certainly of interest, and it's got to be checked out, of course. And I think at this point, with hopes really revived right now, they've got to get there as quickly as possible and have a look-see, and hopefully it's the submarine.
For the submersible, would it have equipment on it that would send out a ping if in distress, or would that be someone on board inside sort of banging on the outside?
Yeah, my guess is if it's coming from the sub, it's P.H. Nargeolet, my buddy, that would do something like that. That's the kind of thing he would do. Some subs do have that ability to send a ping. What I would like to know is, has anyone pinged back from the surface ships back to the sub to let them know that they've been heard? Would
that be typical protocol?
I think so. It is, well, there's no typical protocol, but it makes sense that if you hear clanging, that you would let them know back, give them some signal that they've been heard, and go from there.
How hard is it to pinpoint where that pinging, that noise is coming from, especially when the water is that deep?
It's not easy, but it's not all that hard, especially if you've got people trained to do this kind of thing. And the Canadians that are doing it from what we call sonobuoys, each one of them kind of points to the direction of the sound, where the sound is coming from. And when you get a bunch of them, where all those pointing come together, that's the location of the point.
So just to inform our viewers, the aircraft dropped these buoys, which are have sonar capability, I guess, as you mentioned. How many of them would they typically drop? How many would you have pointing to a location?
That I don't know. I mean, you need at least 3 to pinpoint a location. And, they have several planes in the air, and each one has many more than 3 on board. So I'm sure they dropped quite a few in this area.
Now,
it's really right now the only thing we've got, and we need a miracle, but miracles do happen. So,
yeah, I think that's exactly what everybody is hoping for and holding their breath for, is that miracle. Some of these planes, I understand, also can detect magnetic fields. Would the Titan, being the size it is, meaning quite small, would it even be picked up on something like that?
Theoretically, way too deep, way too small. I don't think the hull, its carbon fiber and titanium don't give that much of a signal, so I think that's out of the question.
Is there other technology aboard these ships or planes that you think could be helpful here?
When you listen and with the sonobuoys and point to the direction as if it were, that's called passive sonar. So you're listening for sounds coming to you. The other way is you make sounds from a sonar. The sounds go out and they bounce back. They reflect off objects. And that's another way to do it, is to actually see it as a shadow in sonar. And you can either see a long way with sonar, kilometers away, but not know exactly what it is, or you can be closer and decide you want to be closer and have a very good idea what it is. And my guess is with all these robots there and ships, they'll start doing that. That crew that's out there now with the submarine called Victor is a French ship called Ifremer, from Ifremer, which P.H. Nargeolet is very familiar with. They call him Mr. Titanic. That is an incredibly competent and experienced group of people, and I'm very impressed that they're on scene right now.
Yeah, he's been down there, I think, more than 35 times to explore the Titanic, so he knows the area very well, and he's an experienced Navy commander. Let's get to the deployment of the underwater rovers. How much ground can they cover? Do they send images back in real time to the surface?
Yeah, through a fiber optic. Well, there's two kinds. There's the ROV, a remotely operated vehicle that you drive with a joystick like a video game, and a tether brings the images up, and they're beautiful 8K or 6K images from the bottom. But that doesn't go very far. The lights are important, and the lights only go out maybe 10 meters from that, maybe 15 meters. The other one is called an autonomous vehicle, in which you just turn loose and let it go. But both of them, it's very, very difficult. They cover a little bit more ground, the autonomous ones, but very slow going. That's why you've got to really locate this object up to within a few 100 meters or more, and focus on that 100 meters, because any wider search area is going to take a long. Typically, robots go about a mile an hour, something like that,
Okay.
maybe two, but that's about all they go.
Okay, so it takes a long time to cover any real length of ground. Is
Yeah.
it if the craft is on the floor of the ocean and we don't know, and if it's intact, how then would they try to retrieve it?
They're very experienced people out there that do that kind of thing. So they'll have to take a look at it quickly and attach a cable to it if that's what it takes. Maybe in the best possible situation, it's just caught on a cable or something and they can just free it and the sub will come up by itself. The other way, though, is you have to extricate it by maybe cutting cables or pulling it out from some position, which takes a bit longer. But again, these people are extremely experienced at bringing things up, heavy things from the bottom of the ocean.
So it can be done.
It definitely can be done. Yeah, the trick again is where the time is running out and we've got to hope against hope. And as I said, we need a miracle, but they do happen. Prayer is always good at a time like this. And we are just hoping that for the best for the 5 people on board and their loved ones and families, that this gets has a good ending.
How challenging is it to maneuver around the wreckage of the Titanic if in fact that's where they are?
If you needed to do that, the best person to do that is P.H. Narzulai. He knows the ship better than anyone else, and not only the ship, because the ship is full of sharp edges and cables and wires and all these things. It makes it very dangerous to work with a submarine or a robot in that area, especially because there are currents that blow from different directions at the bottom of the ocean, and they could easily, it's like a wind, but it's water, so it's got a lot of power behind it. It can easily push a submarine into the Titanic where you don't want it to be. But he's well aware of that. So he knows the ship, he knows the environment, and he's the guy you'd want. But it's not something for amateurs or hobbyists to be driving around a wreck with a submarine.
Are you surprised that we haven't seen the fail-safes obviously work, meaning we haven't seen the Titan float back up? It does have some sort of inflation device, I believe.
Well, yeah, kind of. Well, we don't know that it's not on the surface, for starters. Although it's peculiar that they haven't been able to radio in or send any kind of message back, which is worrisome because they must. The only way you can explain it is they somehow lost power. I don't like any of those things because they point in the wrong direction. That they've had some catastrophic failure of the sub. But submarines are made to float. And if you get stuck on the bottom, you can drop heavy things from the submarine, the batteries, the ballast that helps it stay down. Because once you drop all these heavy things, it's like having a hot air balloon or a helium balloon with a weight on it. If you cut the weight and let the weight drop, the balloon goes up. That's the way a submarine is. So they are made to float in a case of an emergency if you can drop the weights. And yeah, we haven't seen that we know of right up to this point.
Why not send an actual submarine into this area to search for them? Or, would that be useful, or is it just too big to maneuver around?
They have some power. Well, first of all, the military subs probably go at the very most 1,000 meters, and that's pushing it a lot. So they stay very shallow. This is at 4,000 meters. So they couldn't get anywhere close to to the Titanic wreck site. But they do have capabilities to listen. They can also launch vehicles from a submarine. So there are some uses for it, but nothing that makes it worth bringing in a big submarine like that. If this was under ice, it'd be a different story. But it's not under ice. It's just in deep water, and it's not a world for military subs, except for listening. They're very good at listening.
Do you feel like they have what they need to carry out the best search they can in the area?
A couple of days ago, I was pretty upset, and visibly, you'd see that on my interviews, because I felt that the Coast Guard was assembling this armada of ships, which would make people feel good to be able to say that we've got all these ships here, and we're going to throw all of them are going to be after it gives us the best chance of finding the sub. And to me, that's not the way to do it, because it's like if you wanted to have a room painted and 50 people show up at your house with different colored paints and everything like that. It may seem good that 50 people came to help you paint. At the end of the day, maybe not so good. But since then, listening to the press conferences and hearing from other people up there, I think they're doing an amazing job, the Coast Guard. And it boils down to what's going on in these last few days. And I really do think they've got it exactly right, which makes me very, very happy.
What changed your mind? What changed your mind to get to that conclusion?
Getting my anxiety under control.
Okay.
Instead of just running my mouth off. I want to be, I have to admit, I want to be there.
Yeah.
And typically it would be PH Nargeolet and me that were on this side of the camera or on that dock or on that ship that you see there. I know that spot very well that you're looking at there. That's on the way out to Titanic. It would be us on that side of the equation, and here I'm here at home. That bothers me, and my buddy, my best friend and colleague, is there. So it's it just agitated me that I felt feeling useless. I think it's. I'm not saying I could do better than anyone, but I just would feel more involved.
Why aren't you there?
Oh, don't get me going.
No, I'm just wondering how that works. Do you offer your services? Do they invite you? Do you feel like there's something you could add there?
Of course I do, but no. But yes, I do. But I think that's just me feeling that it'd be better if I was there. No, they have very, very competent people there, and I'm only good when I'm part of a team, and that team for me includes PH Nargeolet. There's a handful of us that I think are some of the best. I'm lucky to be there, but I work with some of the best and brightest on the planet. And if we were all involved, having me there by myself would be useless, but having the whole team together would be a different story. So, no, I never expected to be there, but it does. I would love to do everything I can to help. And when I see the scenes like you just showed of Newfoundland Harbor and the way out to Titanic. It's tough. It choked back tears because I've been there many times with PH in those spots. He's just an amazing man. I'm close to PH, but so are hundreds of other people. He's a man that's loved by many, many, many people.
Yeah, no wonder you feel the anxiety you do about what is happening. And, you're doing your part by sharing what's going on with everybody else, so we all get an idea of what's being carried out and what the chances are here for these passengers to be found.
Very good, Morale. Very good point. And I'm afraid there's a lot of ugliness coming out on social media, which really aggravates me. I can't even look at it anymore. Everyone's got some stupid comment to make instead of being hopeful and thankful in a way.
Yeah.
We're going to see more of that. And also the finger pointing that this was a dangerous thing. That's going to happen too. Some of that's true. Some of it's not true, that the sub was not the most safe sub on the planet. So I'm afraid that hopefully this ends happily, but there's going to be a point afterwards, whether it's happy or not, that there's going to be some ugly time. And this is going to cause a complete, and probably that's a good thing, a complete review of what we're doing in the ocean with submarines and also with the Titanic and the Titanic wreck site.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are conversations to be had in the days and months to come.
That's right.
David Gallo, great to have you. Thank you very much for sharing your time.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, Merle.